Hi, welcome to the Running Whale. My name is Craig, and for the very last time, this is Train for 10, PB3, The Reset. So before we go through the stats for the very last time, let's take a quick look back over the last 8 weeks and see just how I've gone from this to this.
Before we get started, for anyone not familiar with the keto diet, it's essentially a high-fat, low-carb approach to eating. Most of your energy comes from fats, followed by protein, with carbs kept low. For me, that's been under 30 grams a day. I'm no scientist, but the basic idea is this. Carbs and sugar spike your insulin levels, whilst fats and proteins don't. Insulin is the hormone that stores fat, and when it's elevated, your body can't burn fat effectively. The problem is, by the time insulin drops, it's often time for your next meal, so fat burning never really kicks in. When insulin stays low, your body can switch into fat burning mode. Eating fat as your main source of fuel helps trigger that shift. Once your body's done processing the fat you've eaten, it starts burning the fat you've stored, and that's where things get really exciting. Personally, I find keto brilliant for appetite suppression. Once you're fully in ketosis, it's surprisingly easy to push meals back and even dabble in a bit of intermittent fasting, but that's a topic for another video. One thing worth mentioning, especially if you're a runner, is that keto can feel tough at first. That's because your body normally relies on glycogen, stored carbs, for quick energy during exercise. But on keto, glycogen stores are extremely low, and your body has to adapt to burning fat, specifically ketones, instead. That switch doesn't happen overnight. In the early days, you might feel sluggish, or, as in my case, like your legs are made of lead. It's totally normal, your body's learning to tap into a different fuel system, and once it does, things get smoother. You might even find your endurance improves over time, especially for steady state efforts. Anyway, that's a quick version. There's lots of great resources online if you want to dive deeper. Now let's get into the rest of the video. In August, I posted a video on YouTube to celebrate reaching 600 subscribers. Whilst editing, I became very focused on my weight, which quickly started to affect me negatively. Realising I needed to address this before things got worse, I decided to start a strict ketogenic diet. I was very much aware that this would make running tougher, but my weight was already affecting me. That Sunday, I released the introduction of my series to document this journey on YouTube, both to hold myself accountable and make sure I followed through. Week 1 was hard, very hard, with most of my run scores being 2 out of 5. My legs felt like they were being dragged across the floor, and anything more than a very easy effort left me with an awful cramp. Something I've not had to put much thought into before is electrolytes, but it didn't take me long to realise how important they were going to be. I knew this was going to be a hard week and just had to push through. Promising results on the scales carried me through the week. Week 2 started to see improvements in my running scores, with them floating between 2 out of 5 and 3 out of 5. However, this week I did have a day ill, and I also had my first race in ketosis, so there were lots going on. The race was the Bury 10k, and it saw me again cramping pretty bad to the point there were a good amount of walking. This is something I've never really suffered with before, only the usual minor ones, but this felt much harsher, and some areas were left sore for days afterwards. Week 3 saw my fat adaptation taking hold, with my run scores sitting between 3 out of 5 and 5 out of 5. This was also the week I had a fall on the canal. Can't have a week without a mini drama pushed in somewhere, can we? Week 3 was also the first week I managed to run an entire park run without walking, and this was Graves Park Run in Sheffield, so not like it was an easy one. Very lumpy, very fun, very happy. Week 4 was filled with loads of 4 and 5 out of 5 runs, and felt like a real turning point. running started to feel less difficult to me, and I even started running once a week with a slender tone belt on, which turns out I love doing. At this point, the legs started to feel like they had some bounce in them again, and so I started to think it might be time to add in some sessions to my running. Up until now, I was just focusing on getting some miles in the legs. Week 5 was the week my watch crashed and ruined the session I had planned. I've not really been doing sessions until now, so I wasn't best pleased with my Garmin for that. I still gave the run 5 out of 5 because running just felt great. Every run this week felt better than the last one, and it started to feel like nothing could drag me down off this cloud. I was frustrated with the Garmin for deciding now was not the time for me to be doing an actual focus session, as this was going to be my first one in weeks. Week 6, I started a 5 weeks to a faster 5k Thursday night session for the KCAC crew. One element of our Club Champs point builder this year is based on a fastest Skipton park run, so I figured I, along with others, might benefit from some 5k focus sessions. This was absolutely brilliant. It's the first time I've done a proper workout since the keto diet after last week's failure. It was also the week I did the Morley 10k, which was a very hard run. Plenty of climbing, plenty of sunshine, and plenty of wind. However, there was no walking on this one, so that was my win for the week. Week 7 was the second week of my 5 weeks to a faster 5k, and this week was hills. I've not worked so hard on hills in a very long time, and it very much destroyed my legs. However, everyone seemed to enjoy it as much as I did, and I genuinely couldn't ask for more. Parkrun was the most fun this week, with my legs actually feeling like they had spring in them too. And that brings us up to week 8. This was the third week of my 5 weeks to a faster 5k. We also had a nice weekend away in Filey and enjoyed a rather scenic and super friendly Yorkshire Water Park parkrun, followed by the Yorkshire Coast 10k race on the Sunday. Videos for both are now available to stream. Have you heard me? It's like I think I'm Netflix. Now let's quickly go over the final stats. The picture on the left is me at a parkrun a few months back, and the one on the right is me at parkrun last weekend. At the start of the programme was £201, and my final weight came in at £178.9. My body fat started at the beginning of the programme at 35.9%, and the final reading was 27.7%. Sleep improved slightly but remained around 70 to 80 out of 100. And so that's it. I've spent the last 8 weeks enjoying foods such as air-fried eggs topped with cheese and a side of spinach, bacon-wrapped chicken, sausages, nuts, green veg, cheese, mayonnaise, fish, and the list goes on. And it's been a game changer. But what's next? I'll hand you back over to me outside.
So at the start of this, obviously goal number 1 was to lose some weight. But goal number 2 was to establish how being in ketosis would affect a runner and answer my question: can you train effectively as a runner while in ketosis? Now, to where I am now from where I was 8 weeks ago, I have made absolutely loads of progress, but there's still loads to do. As the saying goes, life begins where your comfort zone ends, and I'm 100% here for it. So now I'm moving on to phase 2, which is targeted ketosis. And so what that means is basically I'm going to stay in ketosis. I'm going to pretty much stick to what I've been doing so far. However, around hard efforts and races, such as tempos, sprints, things like that, I'll be having a very small amount of carbs just to help fuel the engine a little bit more, and hopefully fill in the gaps that my body's been missing over the last few weeks. Now that will be a really small amount of carbs. We're talking about 30 grams. So the idea is, by the time I've finished the workout, I'll have pretty much depleted that source of energy, and I won't have thrown myself that far out of ketosis that it takes an absolute age to get back into it. So I will be doing mini updates on how that works out for me and keeping you updated. Hopefully you'll see that in how my times start to reflect moving forward. So I think that's about it really. So thank you for sticking with me through this series. Before I do go, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's liked, commented and supported me through this. You have helped drag me from one of the darkest points of my life in recent times and put me back in one of the happiest ones. And for that I'm eternally grateful. Starting this YouTube channel is one of the best things I ever did. Get a real sense of community and family. I consider everybody who comments and sticks around a member of the Running Whale family. And one small thing before I do go, one little thing, in line with my new, slightly slimmer body and leaner look, I've updated my Running Whale logo, which now looks like this, and will be updated once this video goes live. So I'm going to leave it there. I enjoyed making this series. I hope you enjoyed watching this series. See you in the next video. Bye.